These words are by my colleague Gwen Matthews. Feel that? Each breath, every inhale, exhale, we are living, breathing, connected. We are the whole, complete, beautiful selves that we were born to be. Feel that? In your bones, in your muscles, in your heart and your blood. That is the extraordinary you. The you who was born for this time, this place, this moment. Feel that? The struggle, the worry, the pain, the loss, the grief. It is still you. You are still whole, complete, beautiful, extraordinary. Feel that. I invite you now to join in singing our opening hymn, Peace Like a River.
And I am the Director of Family Ministries for this church. And what I wanted to share today was that I've been thinking a lot about Moscow's annual Renaissance Fair, which is one of my absolute most favorite events of the year, and is not happening because we're not able to gather safely. And I think rightfully Moscow has decided not to hold it this year. And yet I have never experienced a year in Moscow without the Renaissance Fair. So I felt really, really sad. And I began to remember all of my favorite things about the fair. And I wonder if these might be some of your favorite things too. So I remember the dragon and the dragon parade that happens each afternoon. And all the children gather under the streamers and ribbons, and they dance around the park to everyone's delight. And I remember the maypole, the signs, it's the sign officially of spring coming to Moscow. And the dancers turn and twist around each other, happily tying the strings to their very end. And I remember the stage full of song and dance and all those who would come and gather in this central place. And I felt so sad. I didn't want to face the fact that the fair was not going to happen. I just wanted to forget and ignore it and ignore the feelings of sorrow and loss that were coming with me. And yet I knew they were there. And I knew that they were under the surface bubbling up, and I risked them bubbling up against the people I love and my family that I'm socially isolating with rather than dealing with them. So I went to E-City Park this week, and I faced the emptiness that filled my heart and the park grounds. And I saw that rather than children playing, barely enough room to contain them all, the park was empty and it was sectioned off. We couldn't even access it. And I saw the empty stage that will now sit empty for an unknown amount of time. And there were no friends to be found. In fact, there was not a single person in the park when I was there. My heart lurched with sadness, and it seemed to represent all that I have been missing in my life these last few weeks. It seemed like all of this was there with me as I sat in the empty park. And I took a breath and I let the feelings come. And I did feel sad, and actually tears came, and I felt grief and loss. And then I opened my eyes and saw the blossoms of a nearby tree. And the air was heavily scented with the cheery, inviting scent. And it was attracting bees who came to rest for a while. And I had not noticed that this tree was in full bloom in festivals past, but it must have been. It's probably been there years, blooming brightly on this very weekend. But it took this moment for me to notice it. And I felt the sun's warmth upon my face and bare arms warming my skin, something I haven't felt for months as we've waded through a long winter. And I felt like the earth was telling me that spring really was here. And I felt the grass under my legs and hands, reaching towards the sky, green in only the way spring grass can be, and thick like a carpet, connecting me with the earth. I thought of how the grass grows despite our walking upon it, despite our mowing it, and grass even finds the tiniest crevices in the pavement and between rocks to reach out towards the sun. And I wondered how I could also be like that, reaching and growing even though everything feels like it's walking upon me and mowing me down. And as I reflected on the empty park, new feelings emerged. I felt a sense of gratitude for the earth and for the spring, of being a part of the earth's cycles that moved on even when I felt stuck. I felt connected to the others that weren't also in this park because we're all in isolation. And I worked through these feelings of sadness. And when I stopped resisting and let them flow through me, I was able to see the other side. It was hard. I struggled to allow myself to open up to the hurt, but this was the only way I was able to smell the blossoms, feel the sun, and be comforted by the grass. I was able to move into new feelings of connection, and yes, even praise. And I hope that no matter what happens in my life, these lessons that I'm living now live on past isolation and quarantine. I hope that my new normal contains the gifts that life is offering up right now. And I hope that it might be the same for you.
The reading I'd like to share this morning comes from an article called 11 Hints It's Time to Surrender. Surrender to someone, surrender to this life, right? 11 Hints It's Time to Surrender and Take the Path of Least Resistance. It's by Emily Maydale. Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung is noted for saying, "What you resist persists." Understanding the truth and wisdom in Jung's teachings has helped me see I always have a choice in how I receive life and in how I dance my dance. We all have the power of choice in life. We can resist what we don't like in the hopes it will go away, or we can accept things the way they are and make space for something new and different to transpire. When we surrender to what is, we allow the magic and beauty of life to unfold. This magical space is where joy lives, where gratitude can be found, and where dreams are born. I invite you now to join in singing Let It Be a Dance.
Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Let a dancing song be heard. Play the music, say the words, and fill the sky with sailing birds. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Learn to follow, learn to lead. Feel the rhythm, feel the need. To reap the harvest, plant the seed. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Everybody turn and spin. Let your body learn to bend. And like a willow with the wind, let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. A child is born, the old must die. A time for joy, a time to cry. Take it as it passes by. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Morning star comes out at night. Without the dark there is no light. If nothing's wrong then nothing's right. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let the sunshine, let it rain. Share the laughter, bear the pain. And round we go again. Let it be a dance.
So we start in resistance. And we start there because there's a lot to resist right now. Sam, stop this screen share, please. There we go. There's a lot to resist right now. We don't like being cooped up. We don't like not being able to be together in person. There's a lot of loss, not just spring traditions like the Ren Fair, but a lot of major milestones like those graduations, celebrations, weddings are getting postponed or put off. My colleagues are getting ordained and installed online. We're learning how to do memorial services online, and I think that's one of the hardest things, is to grieve not in person. And if all that weren't enough to resist, there's also the current political craziness. I've been watching lately a TV show called The Good Fight. I started watching it because it has Christine Baranski in it, and I absolutely just adore her. She's one of my all-time favorite actresses. But she keeps, she's in the show, one of the refrains is she keeps responding to the news by just saying, is this even real? And I feel that a lot. I'm like, is this even real? I mean, Snopes is getting quite the workout on my computer right now because I go and check, and did he really say that? Did this really happen? Is this really what they're thinking and doing? So those are some of the things I'm resisting. I'm guessing that I'm not the only one who's resisting some stuff. If you want to put in the chat some other things, what you're resisting or grieving right now, you can do that. And the thing of it is, the definition of stress is resistance to what is. And all of us have a healthy zone of stress above which we become dysregulated and we're not able to function well. And so we need to manage, and below which we slide into entropy. So we need to keep our stress in this healthy and productive range. So we have to be able to manage our stress. And if stress is resistance to what is, then what helps us lower that stress level is to move from resistance into acceptance. This is what allows us to remain mentally and emotionally healthy. Even in times like this when things are so uncertain and strange. The metaphor that I wanted to bring to you to talk about this move is actually from ballroom dancing. Now, I am not a ballroom dancer. I think I've taken like 2 or 3 rounds of dancing in my life. But what I remember is my dance instructor talking about the importance of holding the frame. And the thing about holding the frame is, you've got to have some strength to do this, and a little bit of resistance, because you've got to hold the space between the partners. So there needs to be pressure. There needs to be a little bit of pressure. But you also, even as you hold that pressure and maintain that resistance, you have to stay relaxed. Because if you get tense, you can't flow, you can't dance. There's no ability to make the movements beautiful and graceful. And I think similarly in life, we have to create a space. We have to create a space where we can feel our feelings, even the hard ones. There's a practice that Tara Brach recommends. It's called RAIN. In terms of holding that space, you take some time, and first you recognize what you're feeling. RAIN is an acronym. So recognize your feelings. A is allow them to be. I is investigate. And the questions to ask are, is there a belief attached to this feeling? And what would it be like if I chose not to have or hold that belief? And then the N is for nurture. So self-nurture, self-care, self-compassion. Now, sometimes we get overwhelmed and we can't hold that space for ourselves. We can't do that work for ourselves. And that's why we need one another to help hold the space. And then once we've created that space, what we can do is we can just relax, and let the feelings flow. The thing about choose our feelings, we have to surrender to them and let them move through us. So we don't choose our feelings, but we choose what we can do with them. And that's how we move from resistance to acceptance. Now, the next step in this dance is to move from acceptance to gratitude. And I know that I talk quite a lot about this and what it takes to do it. Um, it's about coming into the present moment, noticing beauty, seeking connection, and just sort of breathing into the space that what breathing into what is. This is the surrendering to what is, and celebrating the life that's here. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that move from acceptance to gratitude. I think you know how to do it, how to make that pivot. But I did want to talk a little bit about the move from gratitude to praise. Now, moving from gratitude to praise can actually be a little tricky for Unitarian Universalists who don't believe in a God or goddess or a higher power, because they get hung up on the direct object. Who are we praising? Whom are we praising? The the line from the Psalm 118, this is the day the Lord hath made, let us rejoice and be glad in it. And if that language doesn't resonate for you, you can get stuck. Well, the Lord didn't make it. Who am I feeling? The we get stuck on the direct object, and I think it's a waste of energy. Sarah Lammert, my colleague, rephrases that particular psalm and saying, "This is the day that we have been given." Now, the grammar nerd in me says that's a passive verb formulation. But the point is, again, we don't get hung up on the direct object. It just doesn't matter. We need to get past that particular hiccup, because gratitude, while it's lovely and while it helps make us happy, gratitude is not enough. There's a song in our hymnal, it's one of my favorites. It's For All That Is Our Life, right? For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. So it's not just thanks, it has to be praise too. The move from gratitude to praise shifts us from a passive response of feeling gratitude to an active response. It asks us the question, what does life call forth from us? What does life call forth? What does our gratitude inspire us to actually do? So praise can look like expressions of creativity, creation of beauty and joy, but it can also look like acts of service. Because ultimately, what praise leads us to, the response that praise calls forth from us, or that gratitude calls forth from us so that it becomes praise, is love. Our job, our calling, our work is to love not some other world, not some other imagining of what we think should be or should have been, but this world and the people in it with all of our hearts and all of our souls and all of our might. So here's the dance that I invite you into in this coming week. Hold the frame, create some space, relax, let the feelings flow, pivot from resistance to acceptance. Then open to the present moment. Look for joy, beauty, insights, gifts. That's the spin from acceptance to gratitude. Then keep moving from passive thanks to active praise. This is the dance of being human, whether we're stuck in quarantine or not. And as always, on the 8th anniversary of the year you all voted to call me to come and serve as your minister. I am beyond grateful and beyond blessed to be doing this dance with you. I love you all. So be it, and so may it be.